Hello, everybody. It is Wednesday, the 7th of January. I want to briefly talk about occult magic and really warning against it. I don't think they knew what they were doing or understood it correctly. And I want to talk again about the difference between the Gnostic way and what the Gnostic way has created and the Hermetic way. And that we should actually be, while spiritual, we should be firmly grounded in reality. Because that's what the Hermetics were. It was a duality of the material and the spiritual. And I think that is the way that we should go. Because it is the most rational and most sane way. And it is really just thinking of ourselves in a different way as spiritual beings, as beings of energy. A new view of ourselves, which should change the reality or the understanding of the reality that we're living in. So we can navigate it a little bit more sanely than what we're doing at the moment. So let me start with the magic. It is because I was looking into some groups, established groups that are around. I mean, obviously the Masons will not admit women unless you want to go into cookery and making jam and sing Jerusalem, which not really where I want to go with this. But there are others like the Rosicrucians that are still around. There are obviously the various Kabbalah groups. And no, I don't feel that I want to join a set structure of thoughts, because again the structure will create you. That is what I want to show you here. It is the structure that is creating you. It is not that it is the only truth, none of them are, but it will become your only truth because you are inside of that bubble. And then what is inside of the bubble becomes the only truth, especially if you have to reject everything that is outside of the bubble. But as I was looking at all these groups, I came across, I watched another video, I was aware of it, obviously, of the Golden Dawn and what they were up to at the time. Aleister Crowley obviously being the worst of them. And the way that they thought they were performing magic, that they could create powerful symbols, and here comes the power is in the symbol, or spells, and the power is in the spell. It's not actually. There's no energy in the symbol, nor is there energy in the spell. The energy comes from you. You are the being of energy that gives of its energy. It is always you. There's nothing outside of you creating anything. I came to that thought, and that was a long time ago when I read a book of Rudolf Steiner's. And again, he was talking about initiates being given questions and then working with symbols. And I don't know where that thought came from. The only thing I can think is that our subconscious holds an awful lot more information than we are using in the conscious. And every now and again that connection actually works. Yeah? So I think that's what was happening at that moment. I knew that. I was just not in my awareness. And it came to awareness. Anyway, so he was talking about working with symbols, and very shortly afterwards I thought, we have emotional reactions to shapes, and to colors, stuff like that. We have emotional reactions. So again, when they create a symbol, the energy is not in the symbol, but it draws out your energy, your reaction, your energetic reaction to the symbol is where the energy is coming from. And it's the same with spells. Yeah, it is. It sends. Spell would actually, I would think, more work on the thought energy, where symbols work on the emotional energy, and again, we bringing the two together. But at any time, it is your energy that is involved in this thing, and that is something you should keep very much in mind. I mean, when I watched the thing of the Golden Dawn, as they performed rituals, they did not always work out. No, they wouldn't, because as we apparently have very similar reactions. I mean, a class, there's a Carl Jung book about symbolism of dreams. Yeah, where there are symbols in this world that are actually throughout all the cultures. So we are actually more alike than we are different. But to a certain extent, we are different, and you cannot absolutely predict the emotional reaction of a person to a given symbol. Somebody might be a little bit different, and then the whole thing doesn't work out. And again, if you go the way of Aleister Crowley and the Lima Lot, again, it is your energy that is involved in what it is you're doing. And if it backfires on you on a very high level. Yeah, so again, they thought they were performing magic. I mean, it says in the Emerald Tablet book, magic is that which you do not know. It says in the Kabbalion, magic is a course not recognized. Basically, you don't know what you're doing. If you talk about magic, you don't know what you're doing. So I wouldn't go there. But, and here comes the power of the symbol in drawing out your energy. Drawing out your energy. There's power in the cross. And here we come, I want to go toward Gnosticism now. Yes, there's great power in the cross, in that symbol. There's massive power in it. Not, again, by itself. If the story did not exist, there would be no power in the symbol. But it is the story that gives power to that symbol. And again, it is creating an I am. Again, it creates a bubble, it creates an I am. As I said before, all those teachings, they create a person. Yeah? So, the story of Christians. Yeah, I believe on Jesus as the Savior. Yeah? I believe in a sacrifice. I believe he will come back to save me. And all eyes are there toward the outcome of your being saved. So whilst you're looking out there, looking for your Savior, what is happening inside of yourself? What kind of image, what kind of I am does that actually create that story? Yeah, so Jesus is glorious, Jesus is the Son of God, he's out there, he will come to save me, whilst you are what? You are helpless. You cannot do anything for yourself. There is no power within you, obviously. And as you are having to be saved, means you are in danger. That is what it creates you as an I am. That is what you become through that teaching. And then there's obviously the way out as taught by the church, which is the way of blind obedience, trust and blind obedience, or the way of love, unconditional love. And here, let me tell you again, if you are on the energy of love, means you can see only what is good. That is what that energy does. It gives you complete tunnel vision. And again, it is part of a polarity. Both sides together would be the fullness of the truth, but if you love, you're only on the one side. And that means you cannot see the fullness of the truth. Again, it gives you, you're not recognizing the bad in all of that, which is exactly what it creates in you. That image, that being, your being, it creates your being, the I am. Helpless, powerless, in great danger, needs to be saved by something else, and will be saved on the way of trust, love, and obedience. That's what that creates. And then yes, there is, once that story is fully established and has created you I am, then there is great power in the symbol of the cross, because every time you see it, it will trigger it again. It will reaffirm it, it will bring it up again. You're being triggered by that symbol. But the story created you in the first place, and that is actually, God creates with the word. There's power in the word. There is power in the word, believe me. And again, we are energetically, what energy we have now as the victim, as a whatever, but we are energetically tied to that story. Yeah, again, the cross triggers our energies. We are energetically involved in that story. That is not a physical thing. It is spiritual teaching that creates spiritual ties, energy ties. Your life energy. Again, see yourself as a being of energy. And then see what it works. So, and here comes the big difference. And Christianity, again, came out of the sort of Gnosticism. And here is the creating of a story, which then creates. The Gnostics were the same, the Sophia story, the Aldebaeus story, although there may have been there is some truth in it. On an energy level, there is truth in it when they talk about wisdom and ignorance coming out of wisdom, because that is what they're talking about, not actual beings. There's truth in that you should think about, but most see it on the level of beings. Yeah, that there's an evil Yaldabaoth in the astral zone, and a goddess that many believe now she will come and save you. Again, eyes out there, don't look at yourself. But it is the story that creates the world. If you have a powerful story, it can create a world. If you have enough beings energetically caught in that story, it will create a world. So, and that is why I think looking at it from this angle, on this level, is what we need to look at, because it is creating the world. What is happening in the world right now is only the physical outcome. This is why this is so important. Even if we, as I say, we go into technology, we change the world, but the world is operating on the same story. Slightly changed into not one creator God, but into the architect of a matrix. We are in the same story. We will not do anything different. We need to get out of the story. That is why this is so important. If we do anything in the physical, we are rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic. That's all we're doing. We need to go to the cause, and that is spiritual, in order to change, to create some real change in this world. So again, let's go back. Gnostics create the story creates the being creates the world. The Hermetics went the other way around. And that is why it's so important. They went the other way around. They looked at the physical first. They looked at what is happening in this world. And if there are things happening in this world, again, where you cannot see a physical reason for it. I mean, things like coincidence, like intuition, like, on the lowest level, coincidence, intuition, synchronicities, that sort of thing. There is no physical explanation for what is happening, but the fact that it is happening means there must be a cause. Nothing happens without a cause. So if the cause is not in the physical, it must be somewhere else. And that is how they reasoned. Again, for that to even work, you will have to acknowledge the solid reality as real. So again, these teachings now, solid reality is not real. It takes away the basis of inquiry. And they're trying to stop us going that way. They're trying to stop us making those inquiries. Yeah, and taking away the solid is taking away the very foundation of the inquiry. So that is how they reasoned. And then forming a theory, yes, it's the first thing you do. You see reoccurring things, you form a theory, but then that theory has to be proven. So either you keep observing what is happening, and the more the same thing is happening that you're predicting according to your theory, the more your theory is right. I mean, Jesus went even further, and that is actually then the manifestation, the usage of the energy into affecting the material and causing a change on a spiritual level. And again, if the miracles happened, if it happens, that is proof. That is proof. It is like what science does. They have a theory, they put it into a material laboratory, and they work it. And then if the outcomes is according to the theory, that proves the theory right. And that is exactly what Jesus did. I mean, he did not only bring the theory or the knowledge, he brought the proof. Again, many churches won't even teach the miracles. They just preach salvation by Jesus. Sit there, you're nothing, wait for him to come. Again, taking us away from what we actually are, the truth of what we are. Now, for us to work that ourselves, we must be aware of the different energies inside of us, the thought, the energy of emotion, what they actually do, what they should actually work correctly, and that is not denying any part of ourselves, because they are all part of the whole that is working something. Again, suppressing a part of yourself is suppressing a part of the truth. You're not going to a higher level. You're falling in more and more into ignorance. And we must go by what we know, by what we actually know, what we can prove. Yeah? Out of imagination, out of wishful thinking, but what we know. And here is where our energies are already tied up, and they're not tied up in a story. They shouldn't be tied up in a story, but they should be tied up in reality. And they are. Our energies are tied up in reality. We have connections to one another in a family setting, in a friendship setting, in caring for others, anything that we are, that we love, that we are energetic, and that which we hate, we're also energetically tied to that. Those are the energetic ties that are in this world and that are real. Again, there are people going around saying deny everything. This is not real. This is built by your life energy. The connection between a mother and her child is built by the mother's child energy, life energy, love. And that is not nothing. That is not nothing. That is your creation. That is something that you have built with your energy. And they're telling you to do away with it. It's nothing. Why should you? You have invested yourself in the life that you're living in. Why should you deny it? And there's nothing wrong, because consciousness has to form a web. Consciousness has to form connections. Consciousness is not an island. Yeah? For a creation to exist, connections have to exist and constantly worked. Now, what is it you're investing your energies in? Does it bring you profit? Are you working it the correct way? What is the outcome? Again, if the outcome is not what you think it should be, look inside. Yeah, don't blame God in heaven, because you are helpless and you're doing nothing. You're doing everything. You are creating your life. Again, looking at God in heaven, they are taking you away from the true cause, which is you. See your own energies, see the energies of others, see others on a spiritual level. See how you interact through words, through emotions, through the energies that you hurl toward each other, what kind of outcome it creates, and learn. Learn what you are, learn what your spirit creates. Learn this, learn the spirit of others means namaste. The divinity in me sees the divinity in you. That is knowing each other on a different level. And then the last thing, again, whilst those stories are powerful and they will create worlds, as they do at the moment, the story influences the affairs of man in a big way. They're very powerful. Your own energy, I would say, will create within your own little world. Yeah? You are just one little point that is connected to other little points. And as I say, that is not just man. You're connected to animal level, to the vegetative level, to the mineral level. You are connected to all levels. There are things you love, things you like that could be on any of those levels. Again, that forms part of your web. And but again, you're not all. That is the thing. You are not all. You're one little point in the web. Yeah, that is trying to keep its own house in order, which is right. You should do that. the whole, and here comes the thing, the whole, as your connections, let's say you have a connection to your daughter has a connection to her friends, you might know those friends, yeah, so you have kind of a connection to them, but then they have friends, and they have friends, and then there's, the web spreads out toward people that you do no longer know, yeah, so at one point your sphere of knowing actually ends. But it is still part of the same web. The web will go on endlessly. And at one point, everything in the world will be connected. It is. Everything in the world is connected in the same web. Does not mean that you know the entire web. You're part of the web, but you don't know it. Again, you do not know all. You don't. And you're not supposed to. You don't have to. And here is again a completely different structure. The web of life, which is a completely different structure from the heavenly authority that rules over all. That's the pyramid. They are two different structures. And again, I think we should live in the truth. And for me, the truth in this world, if you look at ourselves, if you look at nature, the truth of this world is the web. And our own little function in the web. And then comes being the best version of yourself is the best version that can function within the web. If you're disruptive or destructive, even in your own surroundings, you're alienating others, you are causing hurt to others, then you are not the best version of yourself. None of that means complete denial of self, because you must be very much aware of self. You must be very much aware of what self is doing. And again, what its effects are. But you're going by what you know. And that is the Hermetic way. No flights of fancy, no flights of all the way out there, but being here and now and seeing the effects of yourself. And I think that must be the first foundation before we go any further. There are other things that we can do with it, clearly. We can already see it in this world. We see telepathy, we see remote viewing, we see out-of-body experiences, we see energy healing. Yeah? We see all of those things. So we can reason, again, that the spiritual exists. Because we see its effects in the material. Again, we're looking at the material, we see something is changing, we're reasoning the cause, which is not material. So we can do all those things, but first of all, we must be aware of self. Because that is the point from which it emanates. Our energy. There's no magic. There's nothing done from outside unless you believe it. And it creates your I am. Yeah, then that outside will have power over your affairs. But if you don't allow that to happen, but you clearly only look at yourself and what it is you're doing in your own little environment, and that is knowledge. That is true knowledge of ourselves. And then go from there, go from that foundation. Nobody was meant to rule the world. Again, you look at nature, there is not one that rules over everything else. It does not exist in this world. And then we should not create it in this world. because it is a system that does not belong here. And that is, when you see the outcomes of it again in the material world, that system is totally destructive. It creates wars, it creates famine, it creates pestilences. It does exactly that, as foretold in the book of the Revelation. It has always done that. Again, the book of the Revelation, I don't think is something in the future. It has been continuously happening over and over and over again, because we are in that belief system that creates us. Again, that is why we must look at it on the spiritual level, where things are actually created, and not try to move things on the material level, because we are rearranging, as I said, the deck chairs on the Titanic, and that's all we're doing. So hopefully this made sense. As I said, if we want to go into a spiritual future where we know ourselves as spiritual beings, well, then we must start from the assumption that we are spiritual beings, and look around you, look at the physical, see what it works. Where can you detect the power of the Spirit? And then don't look out in heaven for its source. It's you. Anyway, here, I leave it at that for today. And I'll talk to you again soon. Bye.